backfield. Can they do it again? Yes, they can!
And the catch is made by Taj Washington. Touchdown, USC.
Blocked by Embiid. Timmy, yes!
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Beef Up Front podcast. This is your host, Ryan Coyle, back with another episode as part of our lead up to the NBA draft. Another episode here in our prospect profile series that we've been doing. We've ripped out a lot of them. We've gotten all the top guys out of the way. We've done Brandon Miller, Victor Wembanyama, Scoot Henderson, Keontae George, Cam Whitmore. And today we're diving into a potentially more of a dark horse player in this draft, a guy that might be a second-round pick, and that's Isaiah Wong, junior guard out of Miami, 6'2", 185 pounds. One of the best players in Miami history, led the Hurricanes to the Final Four this year, and was just a really dynamic force in his 4 years, I believe that was in South Florida down there at Miami. He could have came back for his 5th year, for his COVID year, but so technically he was a junior this past year. But he did leave after leading the Hurricanes to the Final Four and turning in one of the greater careers that we've seen out of a Miami basketball player. And this past year, he averaged 33 minutes per game. He was really their go-to guy, 5.2 field goals made on 11.6 attempts. So he shot about 45% from the field, and he shot 38% from three, making 1.6 a game on 4.3 attempts. And he was a really good free throw shooter from the line, 85%. 4.3 rebounds per game, 3.2 assists per game. So he gives you a little bit of other stuff outside of scoring, 1.4 steals per game, and he averaged 16.2 points per game. This is a guy that is probably going to be maybe at the end of the first round, but I think more of a second-round pick. But one of the guys that why I wanted to break him down, I think we could look back on this and be like, all right, here's another guy that had a really productive college career, was sitting there in front of us. He's been productive at the high school level. He's been productive at the college level, but not the biggest overall player, not the most athletic overall guy. And we're skipping over him for some unproven 5-star guy that didn't have a great freshman year, but came out because he was highly regarded and a big-time athlete. But basketball-wise, didn't really produce much. And I think we could come back and look at this draft and be like, why didn't anyone take Isaiah Wong in the first round in the first 20 picks? He could be like one of those type guys. He could have like a Fred VanVleet type career. I don't think he'll go undrafted, but something like that wouldn't surprise me, just because Isaiah Wong is a gamer and he's just able to score the ball. And when you look at his strengths, my first thing just about him is just a player that is wired to score, and he's able to do it in crafty ways. He's not just a guy that is going to catch and shoot from three, or not just a guy that's banking on his one dribble pull-up game, stuff like that. He's able to score in a multitude of ways. And I think that is certainly something that's transferable over to the next level. Has been a high-level scorer since high school, and he's always had that like alpha mentality to him. And he's not a guy that walks around the court talking a bunch of shit or up in everyone's face. He's just like, it seems like a silent killer out there. And I think that's one of the best parts about his game. He just lets his game do the talking, and he probably gets shit talked all the time. Like, oh, you're small, you're skinny. Like, he's a guy that, I'm not going to say he's been an underdog his entire career, but you don't look at him, you're like, oh, wow, this dude looks like he's a legit basketball player. He's not 6'6" and 200 pounds and all muscled up. He's 6'2" and like a frail 185, but very long arms as well. But he does just play with that alpha mentality to him, and that's one of the things I like best about his game. Plays with great pace, and I think he has a really good basketball IQ because he always seems to know when and where to attack. Very good at determining like what speed the game is being played at when he has the ball in his hands. Like, he dictates that very well. He can go fast. If the Hurricanes were looking to be a force and push the ball in transition, he can do that, no problem. But also, all right, let's slow it down and let me get to my spots. Let me create a shot. Let me make a play for my teammate. That's like one of those things that you can't really teach, I think. It's just one of those things. He has a great overall feel to the game and has some sneaky athleticism, not like a high-level athlete, but you see him like throw down some two-handed back scratching dunks. Like, he can get up there and throw the ball down, but he's not your pop-off-the-page high-level athlete. And he does show the ability to like score the ball in bunches. He's a guy that could go out there and be a microwave type scorer off the bench for you. You throw him out there for 7 minutes and he comes back out and he got you 12 points or something like that. in some ways, it kind of reminds me of Tyrese Maxey when he first started with the Sixers, where it's like, all right, Maxey's in and he's played 6 minutes. He hasn't scored yet, but then you look up and 5 possessions later, here he goes. He has 9 points. He hit 3 back-to-back threes. Like, he can get going and score in bunches in a hurry. So from all 3 levels too, that's certainly an attractive thing. And a pretty solid playmaker at 3.2 assists per game this past year. He might need to take on more of like a distribution role in the NBA. He was listed at 6'4" at Miami, but I think at the combine he only came out to like 6'2.5". So for a half shooting guard, that's not really that translatable or transferable, I think, into the NBA. So he's going to have the ball in his hands more and be able to create for his teammates. But I do think he has that in him. It just always was his role at Miami to be more of a scorer. But we talked about this on the podcast before. The NBA is going away from, I think, that traditional point guard. They're looking for more combo guards. And if Wong can just be a decent enough distributor and playmaker for his team and still be able to go out there and do what he does best, and that's get buckets, I think they're going to find a spot for him. Self-creation, catch and shoot, off the bounce, floaters, get into the rim. He can score in every which way. But when we get into his weaknesses, size limitations and not the quickest release are a combination that I don't really like to put on a guy. Like, if you're undersized for your position and you're not able to get the ball out of your hand when you're shooting it the quickest way, that's not a very encouraging sign. But he's done it at every single level that he's played at. I mean, high school, he played in the Philadelphia Catholic League, one of the best leagues in the country in high school, and he still dominated, was an MVP there. And then he went down to the ACC and one of the best basketball leagues in the country and still found a way to dominate down there. So he should be able to still go and get buckets at the next level, but needs to improve that release speed with his size limitations. And he's also, I said, he's got some sneaky athleticism where it's not like he's running around all the time and just doing crazy dunks, but he can get up there, but he's not overly explosive. And I get a little bit worried about that with his 6'2.5" height in terms of when he does get into the rim, is he able to finish over the trees? Can he finish through contact? And can he get up there and throw down on defenders? I don't really think he has that to his game. So I'm a little bit worried about his finishing at the next level, getting up and over guys. But he's one of those players that just, you've doubted him before, and here he comes again, being productive time and time again. It just comes to a point where you can't really write these type of guys off, which is why I'm encouraged by him. And I think that he could have a very good, solid NBA career. Improved playmaking, as I was saying, becoming more of a point guard in certain lineups. Like, he's not going to be the most talented scorer in your lineup, I think, at any point that he's out there. Like, you're going to have another guy more talented than him. But he can be a nice number 2 or number 3 piece. But when you're a number 2 or number 3 piece, you have to be able to contribute some other stuff, and pretty solid rebounder, 4.3 points per game. But he does need to improve that overall playmaking from the guard spot, I think. Was able to get away with it in college and throughout high school, making some tough contested looks. I don't know if that's going to be the case with his size at the next level. But as I was saying, he's one of these players that it's hard to write off. A skinny frame, but he does have some really nice arms, a nice wingspan. But he does need to bulk up, especially if he's going to try and play the 2 guard at the next level. So when it comes to defending 2 guards, stronger 2 guards, like if he's forced to guard a Donovan Mitchell, I don't think that's ideal for him right now. He might have to guard some 1s, which it's kind of hard then to find a spot for him on the floor at sometimes. But he's another one of my Tuesday night in January guys, where if you go out there and you give him 35 minutes of playing time, don't be surprised if he comes out with 25 points and some pretty eye-popping shots. So Isaiah Wong, big fan of his. My projection for him, I'd say the beginning to the middle of the second round, maybe one of the last 2 or 3 picks of the first, but I think he's more of a second-round player. But as I've touched on, Isaiah Wong is a guy that has produced at every single level, and I feel like he's been overlooked at times just because he's not the most explosive athlete, not the most exciting guy to look at. Like, it's not like, wow, looks legit, he's a Division I basketball player, and he just goes out there and produces. So my comparison for Isaiah Wong, I'm going to go with Fred VanVleet. I think VanVleet is a better overall point guard, obviously, and a better defender, but they have that it factor to them where they've been overlooked. And I think this is another situation where Isaiah Wong could slip down the draft boards. I do think he will get picked and not go undrafted, but I could see Isaiah Wong one day being like a 16, 17 point per game scorer, and I wouldn't be surprised. And I think these really good college players who don't have the most upside or the most or are older, they get overlooked times, and they wind up becoming really nice NBA rotational players. So I'm high on Isaiah Wong, and I think someone's going to get a pretty good value pick with him in the second round, most likely in the upcoming NBA draft. So that'll do it for the Isaiah Wong breakdown as part of our prospect profile series. Make sure to tune into the page to check out all the rest of them. Thank you, everyone, for listening. We will talk soon.